Welcome to the Underground, the Steel City Underground, the black and gold standard for Pittsburgh Steelers coverage. Now, here's your host, Brian E. Roach.
Hey everybody, welcome to another edition of the Steel City Underground podcast, video style. Basically that means if you're on YouTube, you actually get to see me this time around, as opposed to just hearing the dulcet tones of my ever smooth and silky voice. Yes, indeed. So for this edition of the podcast, I'm flying solo. Because, you know, for video, sometimes it's just easier to fly solo. It's hard to get Joe to just appear over here. I try to put him on the TV back there. It just doesn't work out. You know, it is what it is. So we're flying solo this time around. And the topic at hand is going to be one LeVeon Bell. And I think this is appropriate. We will have just gotten through... OTAs will have started, and we should be done with OTAs. And no surprise, Le'Veon Bell's not going to be there, wasn't there. He doesn't have a contract yet, so he's under no obligation to be there. The big question is how much of a distraction is Le'Veon Bell going to be this offseason? Is it going to be any different than the previous offseason? And if you remember the 2017 offseason leading up to the 2017 season, you know, everybody said the right things. Everybody tried to make it sound like it wasn't a distraction. But as the time kept getting closer to training camp, as we started to see things project, you'd get people like Kevin Colbert coming out and saying, we want him in camp. Mike Tomlin saying there will be repercussions, consequences for him not being in camp. Wouldn't say what those were going to be, wouldn't say anything else about it. And of course, Bell does not sign the tender and does not show up until the first game. It was, in my mind, a distraction clearly. Not necessarily because he's not there and the players are all upset about it, but because the fact that he isn't there means that every single interview they give, every single day of camp, someone's going to ask a question about Le'Veon Bell. That's a distraction. They need to focus on other things. So, you know, there's a lot of aspects to this. Let's first talk about, you know, whether or not it matters whether he shows up to training camp, whether or not it matters whether he's in OTAs, you know, or mandatory minicamp, or any of those things. Does it really matter? I'll be honest, I don't really think it matters one bit if he shows up to OTAs. I think it's good if he shows up to OTAs. I think it builds team chemistry. I think it allows him to get to know the people in the room more so than if he doesn't show. But is there a traumatic drop-off from him not being at OTAs and it may be mandatory minicamp? Probably not. It's football in shorts, okay? We're not talking about tackling. We're not talking about playing at football speed. It's football in shorts. He can do football in shorts wherever he is. So I don't know that is a tremendous downside. However, once we start to get to training camp, now you're talking a different animal. And I think, you know, anybody who's ever played knows that, you know, just hitting time in shorts isn't the same as actual contact, as actual drills, as running with full gear on. You know, there's a difference in the speed of the game. There's a difference in keeping your body conditioned to getting hit, to having contact. And it was pretty clear last season that the first couple games Bell was back, he was not as crisp, as sharp as he could have been. Now, this is against, you know, first game was the Browns last year. Bell amounted 10 carries, 32 yards, had 6 targets and 3 receptions for 15 yards. So a grand total of 47 yards against the Browns. Now, the Browns, I said it last year, I'll say it again this year, their defense is not bad. It's not the worst defense in the league. It's not the best defense in the league. But it's a respectable run defense. It's a respectable group. So, at the same time, this is Le'Veon Bell. You know, this is probably what most people think is the best back in the league. And should he be just basically putting up 3.2 yards per carry against the Cleveland Browns? No. Is that a direct result of him having absolutely zero time in training camp, 0 reps with the offensive line, 0 reps in the offense? Absolutely it is. And to say that it's not is insane. It's ridiculous. I don't care how many times Kevin Colbert, LeVeon Bell, Mike Tomlin, any of them say it. There is an impact to him not being there. Consequences are that he will not be football ready when the season starts. No question about it in my mind. Second game, he had 27 attempts for 87 yards. He had 4 targets, 4 receptions for a whopping 4 yards. A little better, obviously. But again, we're talking about 91 yards. This is a defense that I think is better. The Minnesota Vikings was the second game. Against the Bears, 15 attempts, 61 yards. Finally gets over 4 yards average per carry. Had 7 targets, 6 receptions for a whopping 37 yards. None of these numbers are impressive, and it takes until the 4th game before we have a breakout-type Le'Veon Bell game against the Kansas City Chiefs. 35 carries, 144 yards, plus 42 yards in receptions. But then the next week against Jacksonville, he kind of disappears again. Again, a solid defense. It's a tough start. I mean, look, the Bears are a decent defense. Minnesota's a good defense. Jacksonville's clearly a good defense. Clearly, Kansas City was not the best defense in the league last year. So, 5 games into the season, and Bell is still maybe not fully in swing. Could they get around it last year? Sure. Did they maybe lose a Bears game in part because Le'Veon Bell is not Le'Veon Bell that they anticipate? Maybe. I certainly wouldn't put that all on Le'Veon Bell. The whole team did not play that well. But it doesn't help when Bell is absent all this time. So the first part of this is, does it matter whether he goes to OTAs and mini camps? I don't think so. Does it matter whether he goes to training camp? I do think so. So that's a part of the distraction and the process of being distracted. When you think about the other aspect of this is the thing that's going to weigh on the Steelers all season long will be the talk of whether this is the Bell's last season. They have until July 17th, I believe, to get a deal done, a long-term deal. My anticipation is that's not going to happen. I'd love it if it happens. Look, I like Le'Veon Bell. I like him in the fit of this offense. I hope he signs a deal. I said it last year. I'm saying it again this year. He's nice to my daughter when they met. That's good enough for me. I hope he's a Steeler for life. That's what I hope. What I believe, this is it. He's done after this year. And in many ways, that will be a direct result of his desire to make $15 to $17 million a year. It'll be interesting to see how that pans out in the free market when he is a free agent, an unrestricted free agent, and he is not going to get offers of, look, maybe I'll eat my words. I don't believe that Le'Veon Bell is going to get offers ranging in $15 to $17 million. I don't believe that's going to happen. It would stun me if that occurred. And it's not about whether there are teams out there that can pay it, that have the cap space to pay it. It's about whether they're going to. Whether a team is going to value a running back, any running back, that highly. And to me, the answer is no. They're not going to. That's been proven in what we see. So the expectation that after this season he might get a deal that is less than what the Steelers offered him last year, which was over $13 million a year, it's very possible that when Bell goes out on the free agent market, if he doesn't get what he wants, maybe he's done forever. Maybe he said, if I don't get the money I want, I'll walk away. I have other things to do. And certainly for a guy who's essentially going to have made $27 million or $26 million in 2 years, I get it. That's a lot of cha-ching, right? In a couple years worth of effort. Maybe he doesn't need, to play football anymore. Maybe that's not where he's headed. We will see. But you can see how this kind of conversation is in fact going to play out throughout minicamp, throughout OTAs. The number one story is going to be Le'Veon Bell's not here, blah, 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 blah. People are going to run with it. They're going to chug it. They're going to force it down everybody's throat. It will be a distraction. Could it be avoided? Sure. It could be avoided if they can come to terms and sign a deal. They're not gonna. So, hopefully Mike Tomlin and the coaches and the leaders in the locker room are going to be able to help mitigate the distraction that the press is going to cause, because they are. There's no question about it. It's going to be a talking point, and it's going to keep getting brought up because that's what is going to happen. So is that part of distraction? Sure it is. There's no question about it. Then there's the other part of this, which is Bell himself. All right, Bell is, I don't want to say a master, but Bell has proven himself to be very good at managing the social presence that he has, attempting to walk a very thin line. And Joe and I talked about this not that long ago on the Hot Seat podcast, that he's able to walk a thin line between coming off as a greedy SOB who just is self-centered and thinks only about himself, and a guy who's trying to do the right things for himself, his family, other members of the running back community, and still be team-centric, right? He doesn't want to alienate the fans, even though some of them have long already jumped ship. He wants to try and portray himself as the victim. He is not the victim. So it's very difficult for him. You know, he really wants, you know, we've seen it in the tweets about, you know, hard to be a hero when they keep painting you as a victim, you know, people hating on him. And it's not. It's just, look, the bottom line is you're making $14.4 million, $14.2 million, whatever it is, for playing football. It's a tough game. You have a potential for very limited earnings over a period of time. But you're making $14 million in a single season. That is more than 90%, maybe 99% of the population, the people who are paying to see you play, will make in the next 10 to 15 years. So in 1 year, you're making that money. And if you managed it right, you would never have to work again anyway. It's up to you. You know, it's hard to portray yourself as being villainized or being victimized when, you know, you're in that position. And I understand people think, well, pay him what he's worth. Well, what he's worth isn't what he wants. I mean, when you talk about this, what is LeVeon Bell worth? LeVeon Bell says, I'm worth $15 to $17 million a year because I'm a number one running back and a number two receiver. Will you look at his stats for last year? Is he the number two receiver for the Pittsburgh Steelers? Absolutely not. I've said this repeatedly. Last year was not his best receiving year. In many, 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 many games, he was a dump-off, which is what his trademark has been as far as receiving. Yes, he runs patterns on occasions, but where he gets the bulk of his receptions is as dump-off passes where he makes guys miss and move and picks up extra yards. Last year, he took those dump-offs and went down. Boom. One hit, down. He didn't make guys miss nearly as much as he has in years past. Does that mean he's getting older? Does that mean he's losing his step? I'm not going to say that. I don't know the answer to that. I will say that it is less productive than he has been in the past. So, with that being said, is he a number two receiver for the Steelers? I don't think that he is. Joe Kuzma has made the argument in seasons past that he is. I don't think that's true anymore. He may be the guy who gets the second most targets on the team. That doesn't make him a number two receiver. A number two receiver is out there causing distractions, occupying the defense in different ways, pulling guys off of the number one receiver, causing them to spread out their defense, making the secondary be honest and cover everybody as opposed to just, you know, triple teaming Antonio Brown. LeVeon Bell wasn't doing that last year. In no way, shape, or form was he doing that. He was not pulling coverage off of the wide receivers. He was the outlet, period. And that is part of being the running back, not a separate position. So the argument that I'm going to be paid as a number one running back and a number two receiver, in my mind, is invalid. You're not. You are a running back. Running backs right now have and I'm not saying this is right or wrong, by the way. I'm just saying sometimes reality is simply reality. And running backs, based on the NFL pay scale, make a certain amount of money. And that amount of money is not $15 to $17 million a year. That amount of money is somewhere less than $9 million a year. That being said, the Steelers made him an offer at 13 point something per year for several years. He poo-pooed it because it wasn't where he wanted to be. So in my mind, there's an exclamation from Bell, I want to be valued. You were offered contracts that were $5 million more than anybody else at your position is making. That is a demonstration of value. That is respect. That is showing you that the team wants to do the right thing for you. Continuing to say, I need more than that, in my mind, it's unavoidable to look at that and say, the player simply wants to get paid. It's not about team, no matter what he says. It's not about championships. It's about pay me my money. It's about the Jerry Maguire mentality, show me the money. That's what it's about. Show me the money. And I do not fault Le'Veon Bell for trying to make as much as he possibly can. At some point, you have to say, okay, that's as much as I can make. You can't just keep saying, no, I need this much. If nobody's going to offer you that much, you can't make that much. All right? I can't, as we used this example before, there's nobody out there listening. There's nobody out there watching. I can't. Joe can't. None of us can go to our employer and say, you know what? I need to make this much money. If I can't make this X amount of money, I can't do this job anymore. Because what will happen is our butts will get fired, period. They'll be like, oh, well, thank you very much. Get the hell out. You don't set your own salary. It doesn't work that way. And, especially with a team schema like the Steelers and the NFL, where you have salary cap issues, where you have a huge amount of people that have to be brought in to make the team better, right? To make the team a championship level team. You cannot overpay at any one position. Simply can't do it. So that would be overpaying at the running back position. It just would be. Look at the guys who've won Super Bowls over the last few years. Have any of them had, a starting stellar running back? The answer is no. A lot of them have been running back by committee. It is not the breaking point for any offense anymore. It's been proved that with the right group of running backs, lower paid, taking less snaps per, giving them time and space so that they stay fresh, with that kind of a setup, you can win a championship. You can certainly win a championship with a star running back. Le'Veon Bell can make the Steelers a better team when he's on the field. But is he on the field, at his highest potential? Certainly not going to be in the beginning of the season because he's going to have missed the entire offseason. So the second question then is that this is going to be a distraction throughout the year because at the end of 2018, when this season is over, everyone knows that's it for Bell. They can franchise him again, but it'd be some ridiculous number that they're not going to pay. So the odds of them throwing a third franchise tag on Le'Veon Bell are essentially zero. To go back to the podcast we did after the royal wedding, those chances are as good as me meeting Meghan Markle and having her say, oh, I'm on your list. Well, let's go do it. That's not going to happen. Zero chances, right? So no shot there. But that means, what are they going to do? Well, they're not going to come up with a long-term deal after another year of wear and tear on Bell, has run through. And he's taking, he's betting on himself. God bless him, he's betting on himself, but he is taking a dramatic chance here. If he performs less than he did the year before, that will be the third year of perceived decline. Not tremendous decline, not drop off the face of the planet decline, but decline nonetheless. So if he has a less than up year, teams are going to look at him and say he is a running back in decline. And if that's the case, he has no shot at getting the money he wants. In fact, he won't get LeSean McCoy money, probably, as a running back that's aging and in decline. He's only going to be 26, so don't get me wrong. He's not really old. And I think that he has plenty of years and plenty of juice left in those legs and in his, his gas tank. But you cannot fight perception and you cannot fight the fact that teams are simply not going to offer him that kind of money. So he is going to be a distraction this offseason, and without a deal, he is going to be a distraction during the season. Not him personally, not LeVeon. It's not him forcing the issue. It's just going to be a distraction. There's no question in my mind about this. But as I was saying, LeVeon also has the ability to cause these distractions himself. He has his social media conscious. He tweeted out the day of the game, the Browns game, can't wait. That's him managing that persona, right? Managing it and making it, trying to look about, I'm all about the game, I'm all about football, I'm all about winning, to try and set that perception. Again, he's trying to set a perception from the fan standpoint. That's what I'm about. It's not about all this other stuff. Hey, don't look behind the magic curtain. I'm the Wizard of Oz. Don't look behind the curtain. I tell you, I just want to play football and win championships. I'm going to tell you that's nonsense. But he does a good job of trying to make people believe it. All right? And there's nothing wrong with him wanting more money, okay? Again, let me reiterate that. Nothing wrong with that. It's just at some point reality has to be embraced. Okay. So what does that end up meaning for the Steelers? Well, outside of LeVeon Bell, you've got Stephen Ridley, you've got James Conner, you've got Jalen Samuels, the rookie that was just signed, and a slew of other running backs that are not really difference makers, okay? We don't know what James Conner has to provide. He looked sharp in limited snaps last year until he got hurt. We don't know how he's going to look in this next season. It would be nice to think he can provide some snaps. Stephen Ridley looked really good at the end of the season to close out. It would be nice to think that combination can do the job, especially throwing in, the new Swiss Army knife, Jalen Samuels. So all of those things would be great, right? We'll have to wait and see. Until and unless, LeVeon really decides to hold out, because he has said he was going to skip games even if he didn't get paid. He's backed that off. I don't think that will happen. I think he will be there for the Browns game. But I think he'll be taking limited snaps because they got to protect him to a certain extent. The Steelers may choose to run the wheels off of him this year. They may choose to just pound Bell and try and run the wheels off him. It's going to depend, though. If it's not successful, then they're not going to do it, right? You're not going to just pound Bell down the middle or out the sides or keep using him just because. They're not spiteful like that. They want to win. So it'll be interesting to see. And if he's less than effective, then he will have missed his opportunity for the big payday. And I don't know, if his season tanks a little bit, okay? If Bell isn't as effective as they want him to be, either through rust or, simply age, whatever it may be, if Jalen Samuels and James Conner and Stephen Ridley are being more effective as a group than LeVeon Bell is as an individual, and his season, part of his snaps start to get eaten up, and his season starts to go sideways a little bit, is that going to cause an even bigger distraction? Absolutely it will. Because right now, Bell he's pretty magnanimous about, he's not vindictive with the team, right? He understands it's business. He understands they're doing what they got to do. At least to the point of he knows that they're not out, trying to cheat him. At least that's the way it seems sometimes. And then every now and then he'll send a tweet out and say, "I don't know what I got to do to be valued." You've been valued. It's the statements like that get under my skin a bit. They stick in my craw, because if somebody ever said to me, we all want to be valued at work, right? We all want to be shown that we're valued. If I get a 2% increase in my job and my salary, I feel like I got valued, okay? I feel like they respect the fact that I'm doing my work because they gave me more money. They showed me respect. This is not a 2% increase that the Steelers were trying to give LeVeon Bell. It's more like a 37 or 40% increase that they were trying to give him. And he didn't feel that was enough respect or value. you've been valued more so than most people will ever see in their lives. And it wasn't good enough. So you cannot play that card anymore. You cannot play the card of, I don't know what I got to do to be shown that I'm being valued. You've been shown that in any logical, realistic way. You've been shown that you've been valued. You just aren't getting valued where you want to be. And sorry, that's reality. We all face that. I'd like to make $50 million a year too. It's never going to happen. Hell, I'd like to make $200,000 a year. Ain't going to happen. Not doing what I do. So it's unlikely. I think we just have to be aware that this is going to be an interesting season with the Steelers and Bell. And maybe everything I'm saying will be moot. And by July, there'll be a long-term deal in place, and everybody will be happy. I would like that to happen. I would hope that happens. I just don't expect that to happen. So that's going to wrap it up for us here on the podcast. If you are watching us on YouTube, do me a favor, hit the subscribe button. Help us out a little bit by getting those numbers boosted up. We appreciate the commentary. All the folks who have commented over the past few weeks, we don't care. Call us names. Tell us we're smart. Agree with us. Disagree with us. It's all good. We're respectful. You're respectful. We love you all. It's fantastic. All the other platforms, Apple, SoundCloud, iHeartRadio, Joe knows them way better than I do. If you won't get to see this, but you can hear my the voice. We appreciate you guys too. Write us a review. Let us know what you think. Share it out on Twitter. You can follow me at @CannonsDon'tFun. You can follow Steel City Underground at Steel City Underground. Check us out. Read some of the articles that are out there on the website. And we will keep bringing you the best Steelers content we can. So until next time, everybody, it's chaos. Be kind, and we'll talk to you later.
We would like to thank you for listening and remind our listeners to follow us on social media and our website, www.steelcityunderground.com.